Nigeria faces a critical blood shortage with only 25% of the estimated 2 million units needed annually being collected. This shortfall leaves hospitals and patients, especially those with conditions like sickle cell disease, in dire need of blood supplies. The National Blood Service Commission, NBSC, reports that Nigeria collects approximately 500,000 pints of blood each year, falling short by about 73.3%. This gap is attributed to limited voluntary donations, with only 10% of blood collected coming from voluntary, non-remunerated donors. Efforts to address this issue include the establishment of blood collection centers across all 774 local government areas, as announced by the federal government. To bridge the gap, experts suggest that if just 1% of Nigeria's population, approximately 2 million people, donated blood voluntarily, the country could meet its annual blood requirement. This collective effort would not only save lives, but also strengthen the healthcare system's resilience. Now, for an expert perspective on the best approaches to end blood shortage, we're now joined by medical doctor, Dr. Ossai Jude. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's talk about how big an issue we have. We know there's something called the blood bank, and there have been challenges when it comes to filling that bank and having enough, to meet the need for blood. How big is the challenge?
It's terribly big. Like you rightly mentioned, according to WHO, for us to reach our yearly requirement of blood, we need 2 million pints of blood, but we are able to hardly meet up with 500,000. So the question is, what happens to the remaining 1.5 million pints of blood that are required or that are needed? That translates to about 20% of preventable deaths across the country. So it's a terrible situation, actually.
Indeed, Doctor. So for those with sickle cell anemia who require regular blood transfusions, are there any options for them? And how do we bridge that gap of shortfall in blood availability, as it were?
Oh, nature has given us something called blood, and the best way to fill up a blood shortage is to actually have people to donate blood. If people don't donate blood, we will have the blood shortage. So the question is, how can we have efforts across the country to fight blood shortage in the country? That's what the question should be right now across the country.
So in your research so far, what do you think are the major challenges when it comes to donating blood voluntarily in Nigeria?
Broadly, Nigerian is highly traditional. So there are several myths here and there that prevents people from donating blood. In fact, before we go into blood donation, how many people know that there's something called blood shortage? That's the first question. And it's when you know that there is...
Are you sure people don't know about blood shortage? Because I hear Yoruba people, say a lot of eje shots, things like that.
I mean, you would think people would know, but then you should do the research on the streets. We did a survey on the street, and we asked people on the street, do you know that there's something called shortage of blood, and we need people to donate blood? And many people would say, oh, I'm not aware of that. And the few people who know, they go, oh, why should I donate? I would die if I don't. And several myths that you only can cry when you hear them, actually, basically.
All right, cash for blood. That's another scenario here. What's the perspective like in terms of encouraging people? Fine, you're going to get something for donating your blood, as to voluntary, perspective as well. So, what do you make of that scenario? Are people even with cash, incentives?
So, incentivization. I wouldn't say donors shouldn't be incentivized. First of all, I think the major incentivization anyone should have for donating blood is that they are saving a life, actually. But according to WHO, the safest blood you can have out there are the voluntary blood that are donated voluntarily. And why is that so? Because if people realize that, oh, if I go to a blood bank and I decide to sell my blood, I'll get some money, and that becomes a practice, then many things happen. Like, for instance, people who are not fit to donate blood, coming in regularly to donate blood, or people who have some kind of diseases coming into donating blood, even though the blood will be screened, but then we want to reduce the incidence of blood that have to be, disposed of and all of that. So a whole lot of troubles come in if we do not have safe donation. And what happens if we don't have safe donation? By chance, an unsafe blood gets to a patient. That patient can come down with diseases like HIV, hepatitis, to mention but a few, actually.
So how would you assess the current infrastructure when it comes to blood donation, the banks, the storage facilities, and all of the things that we need to actually meet or close that gap?
Your guess is as good as mine, actually. Like many things in Nigeria that needs more investment from the government, this also needs more investment from the government. Fine. We have some very state-of-the-art facilities like the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, like the Lagos State Blood Transfusion Services, and many partners that we are currently partnering for our upcoming event, a nationwide blood drive. But still, a whole lot has to be done because some of these centers will still complain, we still need electricity. For instance, blood needs to be stored in cold storage or cold chain, right? There isn't like you don't have cold chain.
So why are we asking people to donate if we don't have the infrastructure to even save or store the blood?
So then it would be like this, and why are we asking people to give other people a chance to live if in the end, right, sometimes there won't be infrastructure to store the blood? I don't get what I'm trying to say. There's someone who's on a bed right now who just needs the blood, and that's why that person would be alive. So are we going to just throw people who want to donate blood just because in some centers they are still working on their storage mechanisms? Yeah. Basically, no. So yeah.
I'm so sorry to come in, but when you look at the socioeconomic scenarios in Nigeria, and people can hardly even get maybe 2 square meals a day, and in such scenarios, we're asking such people who might want to voluntarily donate blood, and they're not even fit enough to do that. So is that also part of the problems here due to the shortage? Even after donating as well?
Well, certainly it is, but I know we know that the average Nigerian is, as much as we have a lot of problems, we are compassionate people. Mm-hmm. So broadly or largely, I would say that is not the major thing that is causing the blood shortage, right? It's the myths. People have a whole lot of scares, a lot of fears, and that is why a massive education campaign is very important in solving the issue of blood shortage. People need to know that, all of these myths, these fears you have, right, many of them are not true. This is the truth here, basically. And of course, definitely, some people would say if they had money, they don't have enough blood because they don't have money and they're not taking care of us. But it's not just about you not having money. I mean, who says that you don't have blood in your vein? You live, actually.
So what roles do you think the government can play in sensitizing more and also incentivizing blood donation?
Education, massive education, advocacy costs a lot. Where we're having honorable stations like this across the country regularly informing people about blood donation, demystifying myths and all of that, right? Campaigns, I mean, I see billboards here and there on certain issues. Why are we having billboards here and there talking about the issue of blood shortage? I feel like the government, the government is doing a whole lot, but I don't think the government has taken this as seriously as possible. Looking at the statistics, Nigeria currently rates as one of the highest in terms of maternal mortality. Out of every 100,000 live births, 512 people would women, according to statistics, die. So I feel like the government has to invest more in advocacy. Of course, they have to invest in equipping the hospitals and the blood banks as well, and provide money as well for these places to have a lot of donors activities, from World Blood Donation Day is coming up around now. Some of these centers are complaining we don't have funds to have celebration of our donors. Donors need to be celebrated, basically.
Okay, advocacy on the part of the government on one side, NGOs as well. I'm looking at your 500 Lives initiative. Maybe you could give us an inkling of what you've been doing as well in that regard.
Definitely. So the 500 Lives initiative has been running for the last 7 years. I started while I was in medical school. I was my 300th year. I remember one time walking into a cancer ward, and we had done a project, that's my class at the time, I'd done a project for the kids. We did a surprise Christmas party. It was very beautiful, came into the ward a week after to just check on some of these kids, and many of them had died actually. And then there was just this prevalent complaint, oh, we need blood. Jude, would you donate for me? I'm just one person, and then I'm seeing about 5 parents asking me to donate blood for them. And from that day onwards, we decided to commit ourselves to donating 500 pints of blood, through mobilization of people across the country yearly, to give to not only people from cancer, but other victims who need blood transfusion. And that's what we've been doing for the last 7 years. And currently, we're about to launch one of the biggest blood drive this country has ever witnessed. We tagged it Nigerianism because it's a nationwide blood drive happening in all 36 states in the country.
That's good.
So this Nigerianism, what exactly, where is it going to take place, and what exactly is your goal in driving that program?
Yeah, we have an audacious goal, yeah. Nigerianism is the launching phase of our 5-year plan of actually ending blood shortage in Nigeria. I know that sounds very ridiculous. How would you end blood shortage in Nigeria? So we did the statistics that currently we need 2 million pints of blood and we are barely having 500,000. That goes down to the fact that we don't have enough voluntary blood donors. If we could regularly create programs to massively educate Nigerians, basically, and other blood drives, and with the goal of increasing and recruiting voluntary blood donors yearly, right? Can we achieve 1 million voluntary blood donors in 5 years? That's our goal. If we can do that, we can end blood shortage. And so, with our upcoming projects of a nationwide blood drive happening in all 36 states, we envisage that we'll be interfacing with about 10,000 people who we hope to recruit as voluntary blood donors. So just like, imagine 10,000 minus 1 million, that's something. And then subsequently, we are going to be coming with very big, bold, audacious projects to continue to increase the number of voluntary blood donors that we have in Nigeria.
It is an ambitious project. We're talking about 36 states so far. And briefly, what has been the response since this project has been on ground in terms of,
It's been massive.
Yeah.
We came up with a beautiful plan. We decided to start with organized system, and the best organized system you can have is at the tertiary institutions. They're made of young, vibrant people who are willing to be part of audacious changes. And so making collaborations with different student bodies across the country. What I've mentioned is the Nigerian Medical Student Association and so many other worthy bodies. We've been able to mobilize teams across the 36 states, and come next week, 14th, across the 36 states, we'll be having blood drives.
All right, we wish you all the best in all your moves to ensure that we close the gap of blood shortage in Nigeria. Dr. Ossai Jude, medical doctor and the founder of 500 Lives Initiative. Thank you for your time on the show.